sister's a therapist and I tell jokes. We both want to help all kinds of folks.
Hello, and welcome to My Sister's a Therapist. My name is Virginia Jones, and I'm a stand-up comedian, and my sister's a therapist.
Hi, I'm Laura Ryan, licensed marriage and family therapist, but my main credit is sister to Guffaw Guru, Virginia Jones.
Is that your main credit? When people see you, they're like, but you're Virginia Jones' sister, right?
Yes. I've actually had a couple of listeners be upset with me because they said, well, why am I not your main credit? This is just not the way it works.
Sorry about it. I've known her longer. Laura, this week it's your topic. And what are we talking about this week?
Well, we have another listener email, which I'm going to read to you now. Hello, ladies. I love your podcast. I really appreciate what you're doing here. I'm realizing now that I want to be more intentional in my life and I want to be more social. I'm finding it very difficult to create meaningful friendships as an adult, and I would love an episode on this topic. I have a lot of friends, but not the, quote, come over and drink a glass of wine with me at 10 o'clock, end quote, type of friends. I really don't have any of those anymore, and I just don't feel like I have a close-knit community the way that I thought that I would at this point. I would love to hear your thoughts. Thanks, KP.
Well, thanks for the letter, KP. And I'm glad you enjoyed the podcast. I just had a social outing where I talked to one of my longtime good friends. She told me nice things about the podcast and said, I didn't listen to it for a long time. I think because I was scared that you were going to talk about me, but then I was scared you weren't going to talk about me. And I would like to send out a special message to MH. We would love it if you wrote a listener review.
We sure would. And actually, that message goes out to every listener. If you have not yet written an Apple Podcast review, I actually really need one. So
she's jonesing hard. I can see her. She's gritting her teeth and she's sweating a little.
Twisting herself into knots.
This is a great topic. I think where people make the most close relationships is when you go to college. And I actually feel badly for kids who do commuter schools because I think that experience changes when you're going home every night. The thing is that you're living in a little village with a bunch of people who are exactly your age.
And I think the same goes for high school. You're spending 8 hours a day with the same kids over and over again. And you're speaking to a commuter. I did not live in the dorms. And I think that it really did harm me in my college experience.
I saw someone wrote a joke once about it's so hard to find someone to date as an adult, but in college, you'll sleep with someone just because you like their sweatshirt. The barriers are low.
Yeah, there's a lot more access in college. I just remember I lived with my boyfriend and he had lived in the dorms. He had a bunch of friends that way. And I remember because I was paying my way through school, I had to work every night where the other kids were hanging out on campus. You know, I was at my job.
My first year at UNT, I had all the hang around time and just loitering in the lobby to see what was going on.
Well, and like impromptu meetings. And
let's just hang out. Someone has a copy of the script to Monty Python's Holy Grail and some nerds are reading it. Someone's playing piano. I think that experience gives you the impression that making friends is easy. And you think, well, this is how it's going to be the rest of my life. I'll just fall in with
whoever's around. And that's assuming that there's someone around.
A group of friends that I'm still close with has a core person who makes plans and acts as the matriarch. And that's been interesting because at first I'm like, she's just obsessed with this group of friends. But then I'm like, oh, I wouldn't talk to Ian if it weren't for her. I wouldn't have stayed as connected as I am to this group of people.
Right. I used to be that person, but now I have friends who are really introverted. And even when I'm constantly trying to strike something up, it doesn't happen. And so I was less social than other kids, but I still had friends. I made friends with my coworkers mostly. The time that I really found has been difficult has been post-college because I live in a town that's sort of a hub town. I was thinking about it when I was spending yet another New Year's by myself. I've had these different waves of friends. This was that group of friends. And then everybody moved back to where they came from. They were all my college friends, but they all left when they graduated. Then I had my British expats group of friends, and then they all moved back to Britain pretty much. And in general, I keep meeting mom friends or other things, but then the families move because this city is not a city that keeps people.
I think a lot of your social problems and dating, I chalk up to the fact that it's a city with a big college in it. That just drags the average age down.
As I focus primarily on friendship because I've discovered that friends are the ones who are really going to carry you through the tough times in life. There's a woman I follow on TikTok, Andrea Berghoff, and she talks about the friend test. She said she's had to change it, but her friend test initially was, if I reach out to you and attempt to make plans with you twice and you do not respond or you don't do the plans, then we won't be friends anymore. And she said, as I've gotten older, I've had to change that because people will come back 3, 6, 9 months later and go, hey, let's get that coffee we talked about. My friend test is, do you reach out to me if I don't reach out to you? I remember for my 40th birthday, those many years ago, I was struggling because I had a 2-year-old and I thought, okay, well, I want to do something because this is a big birthday. And I invited basically every woman I know. And I thought, I'm going to make it really easy. We're going to just have one night in San Antonio. We're going to get an Airbnb. I'm not going to charge them for the Airbnb. I'm not going to make them do anything but show up. And of all the women that I invited, my sisters came and my best friends that I always hang out with came.
Right.
And that's
your most committed group.
I realized at that point, oh, I'm going to stop putting energy into these relationships because when I need people in these important moments in my life, they're not around.
And one of your sisters, who was not me, brought the most beautiful cake decorations.
And a cake. She brought the cake.
She brought a cake on her knees on the plane.
Yes, she really did it up for me. And Emily, I thank you. Here's a quote from the article. I hired a friendship coach to make new friends. Here's what happened. In my early 20s, I was a friend-making machine. I was the president of my 120-person sorority in college and spent very few hours of any day alone. When I moved to New York City after graduation, I joined sports teams and went to meetups and had different friendship circles with different groups of people hanging out with whenever I wanted a full social calendar. But then something changed. A lot of my friends got married and had kids while I was still on the first date trail. Some of my friends moved states away and our conversations grew stale and we rarely saw each other. I got laid off from my full-time job and started working for myself out of my apartment with no water cooler, chit chat, or happy hours to attend. Then, as a complete shock, my best friend of 7 years abruptly told me that she no longer wanted to be friends anymore.
Oh, wow.
I can relate to that. When I had coworkers, I was much more social, but I have found as friends get married, on some level, when I go to a wedding, I have kind of a private grief session because I know I'm never going to see this woman again.
The couples thing is real. I think it's rooted in misogyny and pick-me behavior because couples don't want to hang out with a single woman for the most part.
I can attest to that being actually accurate.
There's this fictional idea that if you hang out just with other couples, it's like mutually assured destruction. But I've known plenty of couples to cheat on their partner with people from other couples they know. That's a fiction.
I think part of it is really this idea that I can't trust my husband.
Yes, of course.
But also that my husband cannot entertain himself. We have to bring another person with a penis or my husband will be drowning.
And then when people start having kids, I think the problem compounds because as much as single people don't love hanging out with people with kids do not like hanging out with single people. They want to hang out with other kid people.
You have to bring your kid with you everywhere you go. Yeah. So if you're friends with a single person who doesn't have kids, they're not going to really enjoy watching you chase your child around for an hour.
Right. They're going to say things like, why can't we go to a bar?
Why can't we have a quiet conversation that's not being interrupted every 13 seconds?
Oh my God, I feel that a lot. If you don't have close friends by the time you're in your 40s and you're maintaining those close friends, things can get very isolated very quickly. Also, in the ye olden days, I think that people tended to, if not live exactly where they were born, tended to stay kind of in the area.
Yeah. When I started doing my Christmas cards, I realized how many friends I have. And if none of them had moved, I would have a rich social life at this moment.
My partner lives within 50 miles of where he grew up. And sometimes I am very envious of that. But sometimes I'm not because he never had the opportunity to reinvent himself like I have. He has known people through all the phases. And so many people have drifted out of his life that still live here.
I've lived in Austin for almost 30 years, which is shocking to think about. I've had different seasons of friends and they keep coming and going. What Jen Glantz said is, I felt sad and lonely as I entered my 30s, and I placed a lot of blame on myself. I didn't feel like I'd invested time in nurturing friendships. I often canceled plans on the weekends to do work. I forgot to respond to text messages for days. I could have shown more interest in my friends and their growing families rather than in finding someone to date. Instead, I spent a lot of my free time alone, sulking about the fact that I did not have a boyfriend, and I didn't have a best friend, and I didn't have a guest list big enough to reserve more than a table for two on my birthday. I think that's the other piece. People do not value friendship, because I experience this a lot as a counselor. People will come in my office at this age range, 30s, 40s, and just say, I don't have any friends. And I'll go, okay, to quote Jackie Cation, are you being a friend? Are you doing the things that make people want to be your friend? Are you working on communication? Are you getting out there? Are you inviting people to stuff? Are you staying connected?
I think every person who's some sort of college or high school or school experience where it feels so effortless, it doesn't occur to anyone that I need to put effort into this. I have an ex who complained to me when we were in our early 30s that no one had reached out to him. He didn't feel like anybody liked him. And I'm like, well, have you reached out to them? And he just never thought about that before, because you're all just in the same place doing the same thing. The obsession our society has, the world has, at prioritizing romantic relationships over friendships is a big part of this. I've spoken before about my frustration with women my age as we entered our 40s who would throw me over for any possibility of hanging out with a man. I understand if you have a boyfriend and something comes up. It was a first date. I'm like, you're never going to see this person again.
I remember I went to a work conference and I had lunch plans with a member of my family. And they bogued. It was a coffee OkCupid first date. Buddy, you really think that's going to lead to jack squat?
It's not just casual.
I had a 40-minute opening in my week. That was the only opening, and that was it. A lot of time we think we're going to join a meetup group, and then we go and we don't find our new best friend and we quit, says friendship coach Bayard. You have to see people over and over again, specifically weekly. That way you can remember what you talked about the week before and bring it up again. That's how we build relationships. Regular contact is super important, and I just don't think people understand that.
That's interesting, because I have a lot of parties where I would go to the same party every year and there'd be the same group of people. But the first time you go, it's super fun because you're meeting a bunch of people. And then the second time you go, it's kind of awkward because you should remember more than you do.
But you only saw them once a year.
Right.
And that's how my birthday party started feeling. I would think, okay, we talked a year ago. Let's follow up on all the things we talked about a year ago. Then I would spend the whole birthday catching up about stuff that happened a year ago. And then my whole birthday was gone. That's not a relationship.
To defend people in general, Austin has the problem that you mentioned. It's a hub city. People move in and out. Portland still has that as well. Some cities like San Francisco or Seattle, they call it the Seattle freeze. It's very hard to make plans with other adults. I think because those cities are so expensive, people feel like, one, I can't afford to just go out and spend money if it's not going to further my career, my relationships, or something else. Two, I feel like I need to spend all of my time working in order to stay alive in this town.
There isn't a lot of extra time.
And I can't burn time just being friends with another human being. I also think that's very sad.
And the thing that I say to my clients a lot is if you're single and your friends are single, they're looking for someone to have intercourse with.
They're looking for someone to have a relationship with. They're looking for the person who...
I'm never going to beat the person that you could potentially have intercourse with.
No.
That's why you're not getting picked. They're choosing other people and they're choosing their job. There's an opinion piece written by Isabella Castellow. She's a student, and the article is Women Choosing Romantic Relationships Over Friends is Disheartening. She said, I have seen many women lose themselves in a relationship, and frankly, it makes me sad. There's nothing wrong with being in a relationship, but it's disheartening when women stop hanging out with their friends, take focus away from their career, or lose their hobbies as a result of a relationship. Now that I'm in college, it's happening again. One of my close friends has trouble existing without her boyfriend. She brings him to designated girls' nights without asking and is emotionally withdrawn from her friends when around him. It worries me.
Okay, well, that's just rude.
Do you think that hasn't happened to me 1,000 times? I will have plans with friends and suddenly somebody's husband is there. I love you, girl, but I don't love your husband.
Right.
I didn't pick him.
Right.
I don't want to hang out with him.
And he doesn't want to do the stuff that we want to do. Like,
and
why?
He wasn't there at the last conversation. He doesn't know what we're talking about.
The pressure that especially women have to make their partner the center of everything in their life is very real. And not only is it not good for your friendships, it's not good for your mental health. A lot of things can happen in life. It doesn't matter how much you invest into a relationship. TikTok is full of stories. Everything was going great. We were madly in love.
And then
you have nothing. Like,
you
I don't
cannot
want to
put all of your eggs in one basket. I remember reading this book that I think I've mentioned before called Yes Man. This guy, his life got really, really small. He was focused on his girlfriend and going to work, and that was it. He wrote this book called Yes Man based on a year where he said yes to everything, because when his relationship with his girlfriend ended, he had nothing. He had no friends. He had a crappy job, and he hadn't put any interest or energy towards anything in his life.
And guess what? That happened to our dad. Every time he ended a relationship or a relationship was ended for him, he realized none of these people are my friends. These are all my girlfriends or wives' friends.
And his 50th birthday was one of the most depressing things I've ever experienced. It was literally his ex-wife and his children. So people who are forced to hang out with you, and you're trying to live it up for 50 with a bunch of 20-something kids who don't give two damns about you.
Well, we gave at least one damn about him because we planned the party. Without us, he wouldn't have done anything at all.
Which is really depressing.
Right.
This is a continuation of that piece from the college student.
All of the women in my life have lost a friend to similar circumstances or know someone who has. The relationships with your female friends are crucial, so it does not sit right with me when I see women around me let go of their friends in favor of a romantic relationship. Some people expect you to build their schedule around them. Emma Perpich, university student, said, if they're free because they aren't hanging out with their boyfriend, they expect the friend group to be free. I think that that's how much we teach women every day. How can a relationship with women be worth anything at all when women aren't worth anything? Men are worth more. So you want to really prioritize time with men.
It's really frustrating. I remember years ago when I got divorced, I discovered that as a single woman, I am worth practically nothing. I just couldn't hang out with any of my married friends anymore. They only wanted to hang out with me if I was part of a couple, even if my husband was a drunk, abusive person who was horrible during our outings. I remember one night, a married friend who rarely made plans with me invited me to do something and did not invite her husband. And I was so excited. We were hanging out for maybe 2 hours. And she started getting really antsy. I could tell, like, she was distracted. She wasn't paying attention. I was like, what's going on? She's like, oh, well, I just had this time because I had to stay up because I have to pick up my husband at the airport. So I just thought I would use you to kill time.
All right. That feels good.
That was the last time I saw her because I thought, I don't need this. This is not a friend.
And you've also had the experience, which I thought you were telling this story, where you're out with a girlfriend and she starts getting antsy because her husband is blowing her phone up.
Oh, that happens to me every time I hang out with any woman.
Yeah, which is, where is this thing? I don't remember that. Blah, blah, blah.
Or when are you coming home? I remember when she told me that, I have never wanted so much to just shove someone out the door and tell them to never come back. Because I just thought, wow, you don't really even care about me at all. I'm literally a time killer because you have to stay up till 10 o'clock to pick up your husband.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. Just from our casual conversation, I'm going to say the reason that people have trouble investing in friendships are obsession with sexual relationships, family responsibilities. When you are a mom and assuming you are working and you are doing all of the housework, very hard to find time for your friends.
Well, and I remember Emily, when she had her babies, she thought, okay, she's been transplanted to this new country that she moved to be with her husband because they live somewhere that gives you lots of time off. She had a lot of free time. She thought, okay, I'm going to build these friendships in all these mom groups that I belong to. But she found that when the group came to a close, no one wanted to hang out.
The thing that I hear about being friends with other moms is the only thing you have in common is your kid.
And that's been a tough thing for me. I thought when my son started elementary school that I would suddenly have all these mom friends. I would see the same moms at pickup and drop off, and I would see them at birthday parties. The first couple of years of school, mostly you're just going to a birthday party every 5 minutes. What I found instead was that I was just standing at birthday parties by myself because I'm not married. And I think that that is another part. Women who are married do not want to hang out with women who are not married.
The first half of reasons why it's hard to make friends are sex and relationships and family. And the second half is work, the movability of people's lives. We talked about it in the no contact episode, that people move more and people feel that they need to have side hustles to survive, who need to prioritize their time around either love relationships or money. And that's a disease of capitalism.
Because capitalism is the thing that created this idea of this nuclear family. We don't hang out with extended family. We just hang out with each other, and we don't hang out with friends.
I remember when my friends started having kids, feeling shoved out in a very real way. I tried to be funny about it at the time, but it was very hurtful. I've hung out with you for 1,000 hours and now I'm not invited to your kid's second birthday party.
And I have really made an effort. My two best friends, one of them until recently didn't have a kid because I don't want to hang out with a bunch of screaming children at once. One is enough for me. So this is something that Cecilia Wallace said. She's one of the students in this article. If you're solely hanging out with your significant other, then you're stunning your growth as a person. You need to see new people, talk to new people, and do new things. It's okay to be in a relationship and want one. However, it's hard to watch some women dispose of their friendships so easily when we should all be supporting each other, especially in a patriarchal society.
I also feel that it is good for your relationship to have friendships. The model where you have a romantic relationship and you love someone and that person is your whole world. He's my best friend and my cheerleader. It's not good to put that much pressure on a relationship to fill your every emotional need. I think it's much more healthy to spread that out and maintain relationships with your family.
Because it's impossible, because it is impossible to meet all of your needs. And I remember when I was married, my husband would get very mad at me because I fought for my friendships in spite of all of the fighting back that my husband gave me. I remember one night I had a girls' night out where we drank wine and were merrymaking. And I came home and he just had this scowl on his face. He was so angry with me for spending time with people that weren't him.
And they'll say things like, oh, you were talking to other men. Oh, you were betraying me. I think that that's a smokescreen for I wasn't the center. Right. And I'm angry about it.
This is from 7 adults on the struggle to make friends later in life and how they did it from Elle magazine.
Friends have to be more special as a grown-up person. You have 2 things going for you when you're young. You're less discriminating and you have all the bloody time in the world. Of course you will make friends. You will have hours to spend smoking pot and watching reruns of news radio and getting to know one another's most inner secrets. You also have no standards. As an adult, you have much less time to spend with other humans to make them part of your tribe. It is more work and you inevitably are sleepier. As we get older, the new friend is like a unicorn. To fall for a new friend as a grown-up, you typically have to endure some sort of shared crisis. The work colleague at the terrible job, the neighbor who hates the landlord as much as you do, your ex-boyfriend's other ex-girlfriend. Also, an exercise class, a really hard one. People will bond after that. It's kind of like military training. You know, you have this shared awful experience, then you can talk about it.
One of my best friends, that's her other social outing. She belongs to one of those insane groups.
Up at 2:00 in the morning.
Right. Lifting bricks or something.
Tires on a rope around their waist.
Exactly. When you're with those people and you're struggling, it is bonding. But I do feel like those experiences are really unique. You were talking about moms. As a mom, it's really hard to coordinate the baby's schedule to meet up with another mom who has coordinated her baby's schedule to do something that I get anxiety about, texting and emailing too much to coordinate everything. I am busier now that there's a little human that I care for 24/7, and I don't have much energy for awkward friend making, even though I wish I had more friends that were also caring for a little human 24/7 to hang out with, says Eva, 35.
Eva's really getting close to one of my least favorite terms, which is littles.
She didn't say it though. She was near.
She was dancing all around it. We're talking about a couple things, but I think it comes down to the path of least resistance. Humans want to find the shortest distance between 2 things. A thing to do is to, when you can, remove barriers. Instead of trying to make a new plan every time you see someone, have a set place and time. I had a friend who every Saturday he was in a coffee shop with his bulldog. If I had time to go see him, I would go see him there. He was going to be there.
And I had a friend who I didn't see over Christmas. I brought her baby a gift and I saw her on New Year's and she said, "Don't give the gift to me now. I want you to give it to the baby and we can sit together and watch her open it." I said, "There's no way I'm going to see you again for months. I'm not going to carry around this present in my car for the next 6 months.
The next time I see your baby, he's going to be 5.
I know what this is like. I've been a mom. Your days are completely eaten up by these children. You think to yourself, oh, I have a whole day. No, you don't, because the baby has fallen over 15 times and the nap took 3 hours. You're cleaning up vomit it, there's no opportunities for people to fit in there. Question, if you didn't meet them at work, where did you find them? Answer, nowhere. That most people in their sunset friendship years make. Stealing your friends' friends. Who knows how they got them, what genuine hardships and tribulations they had to go through together. But if you can hop on the already established boat, you stand a chance of not drowning in a sea of pizza boxes and cats. Maybe still cats, says Jerome, 31.
When I moved to Portland, I moved here to date a gentleman the first time. I did fall in with his established group of friends in this way. And I am still friends with a lot of the women that I met then. So this is a quote from the same article. I had a large number of some good friends, some not so great ones who were just about themselves. With time, I learned to filter out people who just don't put any effort back in. I used to be so afraid of being alone, so much so that I didn't really think how a relationship made me feel. I didn't care if it was me doing all the work. I just wanted a friendship. Eventually, I met enough people. This wasn't really a threat anymore. Having a few good friends is better than having an army of indifferent ones. I think that's one thing that changes with time is instead of having this forest of acquaintances, I have a handful of friends who I've spent a lot of time with. Reciprocation, positive energy, and finding people who really nurture a friendship are important things to look for. You have to try to make friends, but you'll find some great ones when you do. Really, you get out what you put in. Thanks, Alyssa.
I think that that's a really important message. Yeah. People do not understand that this requires time and effort and energy, just like dating. I remember reading a short story called A Good Man is Hard to Find by Flannery O'Connor. You should read it if you haven't. It's really depressing and weird.
Awful.
If you just look at the title alone, I think a good man is incredibly hard to find, but I have discovered that a good friend who does all the things that this woman was talking about is almost harder to find.
That makes sense. If dating is mostly editing, if dating is mostly meeting with people and saying, not you, not you, not you, why should friendship be any different? You're going to go through a lot of people. I do want to talk about my 2 cheat codes for friendships. One is more successful than the other. We talked about shared activities, shared interests. When I started doing stand-up comedy, all the people in comedy just became my friends because you're hanging out all the time. You have the same interests. You want to talk about the same stuff. You're maybe going to go to shows together. There's a desire that humans have to seek out relationships in this world. And that I think is a terrible idea for a lot of reasons. The flaw of the cheat code of comedy specifically that I discovered over lockdown, I thought I had all these friends. Once we weren't doing comedy, we didn't really have that much in common. I think we were all drug addicts who were seeking the drug of being on stage. That's really the only thing we had in common, with some exceptions, obviously.
I think it's important to have a friend group that is varied, where we didn't meet just because we do this one activity together.
If you have a passion, making friends with the people who also do that passion is going to serve you in 2 ways. It's going to feed your passion and feed that energy. And you're also going to make friends who might outlive the interest.
Well, and I think you have to have friendships that are meaningful, that are not just, hey, we do comedy together and all we talk about is comedy.
My other cheat code is karaoke.
If you want to meet alcoholics, that's a great
Hey, if you want to meet alcoholics, comedy is also a great place to be. There was a woman who used to come out to open mics in LA, and I thought I got to know her a little bit, and I really thought, oh, she just loves comedy. And after a couple months, I'm like, no, she loves being drunk. She is with a bunch of people who are drunk all the time.
So what if you're a single mom and your child lives with you full time? How do we do karaoke and stand up?
Obviously, this is my experience, which does not involve children. But karaoke, I read an article that singing with other people is one of the quickest ways to bond to them. One thing that karaoke and comedy have in common, which is very handy, is that they say the person's name.
Oh, that's good. So even if you forgot it, they say it, because I always forget people's names.
I know people very vaguely from karaoke, but I know their name forever because they say it every time they get on stage. This is what has worked for me. The thing about karaoke is that not only do you meet other people who like to sing, you meet other people who like music. And that's the same as goth. You meet other people who like the kind of music you like. You're going to have people to go to shows with. If you're hanging out with comedy people, you're going to have people to go to comedy shows with. I don't know about anything else. Those are the 3 things that I know. Thank you.
Those are good things. There's an article written by Elizabeth Ross. What is causing our epidemic of loneliness and how can we fix it? Researchers share what Americans have to say about social disconnection and potential solutions. So here are just some stats. People between 30 to 44 years of age were the loneliest group. 29% of people in this age range said they were frequently or always lonely. Among 18 to 29-year-olds, the rate was 24%. For 45 to 64-year-olds, the rate was 20%. This was surprising. Adults age 65 and older reported the lowest rate. Only 10% felt lonely.
Well, I think because the people who were really lonely, who were men between 45 and 55, killed themselves. So then they're just not around.
God.
That's what they do.
Okay.
Oh, I'm a man. I've lived my whole life to myself.
Mystery solved.
Mystery solved. I don't put any time into relationships. I'm not ready to settle down. Oh, I'm 55 and I'm totally alone. Boof.
And I've noticed that there's this story in our society that's very gendered about the male loneliness epidemic.
Oh, that's a whole other thing.
Dude, women are just as lonely as men. Women don't have friends
Laura,
either.
who cares? They're women. Why would we talk about them?
Exactly. So
Lord, you're talking about women like they're equal to men. That's ridiculous.
I know, that's stupid.
I think this aligns well with the thing that we just talked about organically. Some of the leading causes of loneliness in America, according to all who were surveyed, 73% said technology is contributing to loneliness in the country. I'm going to put a pin in that because I don't agree. 66% said insufficient time with family. 62% said people are overworked or too busy or tired. Yes, this is the end of late stage capitalism. Hardly anybody can live on one job. Mental health challenges that harm relationships with others. 60% of people rated this as a significant problem. I've definitely known people with mental health challenges that harmed their relationships. I've had some roommates like that who said, it's hard to make friends because when I walk into a room, everyone's looking at me and judging me. Are they?
I can't stop crying.
Living in a society that is too individualistic, 58% named this as a cause of America's loneliness problem.
I'm going to say accurate on that one.
Okay. No religious or spiritual life. This list sounds like it came from Quora. These are real boomer answers. Well, they're not spending enough time with their family. They don't believe in Jesus.
This is why I want to start the Dolly Parton Church, because 50% of people who participated in the survey said they have no religious or spiritual life. And I really do think that there's something very important about that. I think there's something about communing with other people and having some sort of faith in society, humanity, or something.
The thing that gets people to church is the fear that they're going to go to hell. And then they accidentally make friends while they're there.
I think the stick is part of it. I'm going to say that I do promise to physically assault people if they don't come to church regularly.
If you don't come to the Dolly Parton Church, a woman dressed as Dolly Parton wearing 2 bags of bird seed around her chest, she will come to your house and she will physically hit you.
With the bird seed bags.
With the bird seed bags. So that's why you got to go.
You have to come back.
So when we say technology, I understand that people are on their phones. A lot of times people are connecting with other people on their phones.
You don't have that organic meeting stuff. You're standing in line together. I mean, I experience this now. I do not speak to people in public spaces anymore because everyone is looking at their phone. And yes, maybe they're talking to their cousin. Maybe they're talking to a friend. That's fine. But they're not going to build new relationships with randos by looking at your phone. This is also something I've noticed in romantic partnerships. When I work with couples, one of the biggest barriers to relational stuff is people being on their GD phones all the time.
We talked about an interesting thing together that dating is harder because people are draining all of their dopamine looking at their phones and they don't have any zhuzh left.
Well, and if there's no potential to have sex, then the interest is even less. Ever wonder why adult friendships feel so challenging? This friendship coach has advice. Before, it was done for you. You were told when to go to recess. You were told when to go to break for lunch. You were told when the same parties were at college. So we had dedicated time to cultivate friendships. But now we have to figure it out. And a lot of us realize we were never taught how to do that. And we expect it to happen organically. So we're just applying old scripts to a new situation. And it is not at all appropriate.
If you've never had to do anything, you don't know how to do it. I think that's very sensible.
If you have never had to work at anything. I remember listening to one of my favorite podcasts that takes place in Portland, Oregon. It's called Maintenance Phase. In the episode, this guy is talking about how he was discussing things with his very beautiful male friend when he was saying, oh, I really have a crush on somebody. I'm not sure what to do. And this guy was like, oh, it's really easy. You just walk up to the person and say, hey, I think I'm into you. And then everything just falls into place. And he was like, yeah,
That's pretty privileged.
this is not my lived experience at all. And I think that what we're doing now is we had the privilege of just having friendships set up for us.
Mhm.
And now we're having to deal with the reality of, oh, I can't just walk up to someone and say, hey, you're attractive, let's date.
Hey, I'd like to be your friend. I was at a comedy event the other day and two women came up to me and said, you look cool, and introduced themselves. That's a great way to be my friend.
Compliments. Yeah, I think complimenting people is super important. This is what I noticed when I'm in social settings, which is incredibly rare. When I am, I make friends. I went to a party and met 3 women that I had wonderful conversations with. It's really easy. But as a single mom who owns her own business,
Right.
the
You can't be friends with the people at work.
No, I spend all day with people. I feel friendly with all my clients, but they're not going to be hanging out with me on New Year's,
Right.
no matter how badly I want them to.
As valuable as it is to work from home or to have a hybrid work situation, I think it's really, really bad for friendships. It's not just that you're not going to work, you're not going really anywhere, right? You're going to just make friends in your own house. That's hard to do.
And this is how dorm life works. You see each other at the cafeteria. You see each other in class. You see each other on the way to class. You see each other on the way to the 6-pack. That's where all my classes were. The key, says psychologist Marissa Franco, is not to rely on chance and instead to organize regular scheduled group activities like a book club, rotating pot club, rotating.
Yeah. Why not have a pot club?
Rotating potluck or biweekly Saturday hike. Strangely, singing together has also been scientifically shown to be a
interesting.
particularly effective way to cement friendships. So maybe seeking out a local choir or karaoke night if you're musical. Among their own recommendations, the MCC researchers stress the need to promote a culture that cares and serves others. Quote, collective service can provide important connections that relieve loneliness, end quote, they state, as well as, quote, cultivating meaning and purpose and mitigating mental health challenges, end quote. They also urge public and private leaders to build up social infrastructure in order to help people develop meaningful relationships with others. 3/4 of those surveyed said they wanted, quote, more activities and fun and community events, end quote, where they live in public spaces that are more accessible and connection focused like green spaces and playgrounds.
That brings another one of my cheat codes up, volunteering. I have made very good friends, ZG, listening to this podcast right now, through volunteering about things I'm passionate about. In LA, I was a regular volunteer at an organization that served the local unhoused community. I also spent a lot of time volunteering, escorting women in and out of abortion clinics.
Well, you don't have to worry about doing that one anymore.
That's true.
The job has been taken away from you. That's really cut down your time. You don't have to.
That's a real silver lining. You wind up in a place, one, with people who share the same political opinions as you. 2, all of you know that you're better than people who aren't there. You're with an elite group of superior individuals. I think volunteering is a really good way to make friends.
I also found joining the KKK was very much like this. We were part of an elite group and we were better than everyone else.
Well, you're getting exercise.
White supremacy works sometimes.
You're going on adventures.
You're learning more about your community.
You're gathering around a campfire or a burning cross or whatever.
You enjoy the warmth of a shared burning cross. Jessica Stillman wrote an article called The Scientific Reason It's So Hard to Make Friends as an Adult. Sociologists have kind of identified the ingredients that need to be in place for us to make friends organically, and they are continuous unplanned interaction and shared vulnerability. University of Maryland psychologist Marissa Franco told Boston's NPR news station, as we become adults, we have less and less environments where those ingredients are at play. And research shows making casual friends take 50 hours on average, where close friendships take 200 hours.
One of the things that people who move from New York to LA talk about is the walkability of New York. And one of the things they really miss are these unplanned interactions. Running into a friend, that is extremely pleasurable. And that's something I've enjoyed about moving back to Portland, is that it is a lot smaller. I've accidentally become friends with a man named Ben because I met him at a party. And then I saw him at a comic book show. And then I ran into him in my neighborhood. We're friends now.
I really think the main thing to making new friends is to make it a priority. Make it important. Value it. Make it as important as trying to find someone to date. Make it as important as trying to get ahead in your job or being a model parent. This is a story that I tell my clients because I literally hear this story that we're talking about multiple times a day, every day. And what I always tell people is it takes work. It takes 200 dedicated hours to get a good friend.
Keep in mind that friendships are not something to be taken lightly. Friendships are good for your mental health. Friendships are where you're going to get support in the hard times. Friendships are who you're going to celebrate with in the good times. The thing that you need to put time into and energy into is worth putting time and energy into because it's going to make you happier, healthier, more well-rounded.
But because of our late stage capitalism, we've arrived at this conclusion where the thing that KP was talking about, having a close-knit community of people that we can rely on, it does not exist. There is no tribe. We don't have that because our society tells us that all you have to do is find a person to have sex with and get a good job. And the rest is whatever.
Well, and you're going to have sex with someone so you can make workers for the future. And if you have a community that you are hanging out with, that sounds a lot like union making. So
yeah, we're not
supporting that.
Virginia, what are your final thoughts on this wonderful topic that KP has offered to us?
KP, thank you for this wonderful and very rich topic. My final thoughts are recognize that your life is better with friendships, prioritize friendships, understand that you can't force it any more than you can force a romantic relationship. If you are interested in being friends with someone and they're not giving it back, you got to move on. If you're a single cool person who has no kids, try some cheat codes. What are some things you're interested in? It's a lot of the same advice they gave you about dating. Go do an activity you enjoy. Go hang out at a hobby store. What if you did that and made friends? I don't think it's nearly as threatening to approach a friendship possibility in a Hobby Lobby as it is to try to approach someone for a sexual relationship. In general, understand that it's not easy for anyone. It's better for everyone to have friends than not. Laura, what are your final thoughts?
So I can only speak from my lived experience, which is a single mom. I joined Moms Demand Action, which is an anti-gun group for keeping children safe. And I have not attended enough of those meetings. I've been thinking about joining a women's choir just because I want to sing in a choir. Now that I've learned that it's good and better at making friends, I might do that too. I guess what I'm saying is it's very tough. This thing that KP was talking about with having a friend who can pop over at 10 o'clock and have a glass of wine with you, we had to find some way to do that virtually or something, because when you have a sleeping child in the house, you can't hop out and do stuff. That was something I really liked about the 2020s, is that people who I'd been friends with for a long time who lived out of state were setting up dates with me to meet online. And I was actually seeing them more than I did in normal times.
There's a group of friends from my college that started having a Friday night get together online during lockdown. Have I ever attended? No, but I'd like to. But it happens very early because they're Texans still.
So that should be good for you to meet early, because then you can go to bed early because you're an old lady. The story that I would like to share with married women is that your husband is not going to be there for you all the time. He is not going to meet all your needs. He's not going to do all the things for you. And what I've noticed with all of my married friends is that their husbands are irritating them and they're not enriching their lives a lot of the time. And so we have to fill in the gaps with other people, AKA our friends. And I think about what we call my wives. I have a triad that we talk literally probably a few hours every day on and off. I know every breath of every second of their lives, and that's the way that I like it.
Very involved.
Yeah. I mean, even with my sisters, I talk to you multiple times a day, all day long. I talk to Emily multiple times a day. I talk to my siblings over text all the time. My mother calls me the linchpin of our family, which I resent because I never signed up to be the linchpin of anybody's family. But I think the thing that makes me a linchpin is that when I think about you, I reach out. And I think that a lot of people don't do that.
Laura, if people want to get more good advice from you, maybe on a professional level, where can they find you on the internet? And if they don't, but just want to see TikToks about this podcast, where can they do that?
If you don't want good advice and you just want to watch really a bunch of stupid TikToks that I made, you can go to I Am Laura Ryan. Most of my TikTok is dedicated to promoting this podcast. If you want to get incredible advice with me in a room for a 50-minute hour, you can do so by going to lauraryan.org. Also, if you're interested interested in following the podcast in somewhere besides TikTok, you can go to My Sister's a Therapist Instagram page, or you can go to our website, mysistersatherapist.com, where all of the episodes can be found. Virginia, if somebody wants to follow your comedy career, how would they do that?
You can find me at my website, www.badinia.com, BADINIA. And that's got a calendar on it that actually still has a 2025 printable calendar on it if you want to do that. But it also has my performance calendar.
There's still time.
There's still time. You can find me on TikTok at Badinia and on Instagram at Badinia, which is where I promote shows. Gosh, you can just find me all kinds of places. If you're interested in our podcast, you can write us at hello@mysistersatherapist.com and give us compliments, show advice, suggestions. If you want to hire us, you can write us at hireus@mysistersatherapist.com, and we will do public appearances at a car and boat show. We will talk to women about making friendships in front of a Pizza Hut on a Tuesday.
Or in front of a Costco.
Yeah, we are open for sponsorships. We are particularly courting Sunday Riley. And if you see how beautiful our skin is, you will know that that is a good investment. We are also interested in Liquid Death, Costco, and Imperfect Foods.
And Waterloo.
And Waterloo sodas. We will hold up a can of Waterloo to the camera and smile and cheers each other with
We're
it.
already drinking it. What are you drinking?
I've got peach.
I've got blackberry lemonade.
This is the part of the podcast where sometimes Laura will share a review someone has been kind enough to leave us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Do you have one for us this week?
I have an appreciative email. This is from someone else who uses initials. Hi, Laura and Virginia. Love your podcast. Just listened yesterday to the Gifted and Talented episode and just saw an article online about Moon Unit Zappa. Bader Meinhof much? Hope you're both doing well. And you're doing a great job on the podcast. KLF. Thank you, KLF.
KLF. And finally, in the immortal words of Billy Ray Valentine Capricorn, I just want to say, we can make it, baby.
Me and you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.